Okay, so now we are looking at a daily chart of the same SASO. Usually the daily chart is what we can work on and look at for guidance in terms of what is going to happen. So here we can see that this was in March 2020 when we have the deep bottom in SASO price. So we can call this one a daily cycle low. But when you zoom into the weekly cycle, you can also see that this can be the weekly cycle and the yearly cycle low. So usually wherever you find a low on a bigger time frame, if you zoom out, you can see that it was maybe just a daily cycle low, or it was a weekly or a yearly cycle low. So now what happens is that a cycle is governed by the days when it moves. So now when price moves out of this low point, you see that price would go up. In this case, it reaches a peak after 16 days. So if we look here, we can measure to say within 16 days from this low, SASO peaked at a price of 300% move. So after that 300% move, it pulled back. So it pulled back all the way to this point of about 100% move. So now if you are maybe someone who had bought SASO at this point, when you see that price has reached this percentage, if you want, you can maybe sell maybe 50% of what you have. When it moves toward this point, you say, okay, I'm going to buy back again when I see that price is reversing. So let's say it reverses here and you see that, okay, this day was a strong buy and the low prices were rejected. Then you buy back at this point. When price moves up again, you are able to sell maybe again at this point. By this time you have compounded your holdings of shares. When price starts to move down, then you are looking to buy back again. So this movement in price is what we call cycles. So price moves from a daily cycle low to a half cycle high. Now usually between a half cycle high there is maybe a back test, which is whereby price goes up, then it tries to back test, then it starts resuming upwards. Now since this was extremely bullish, price continued upwards, then it reached a half cycle high, then people started taking profit and it reached a half cycle low. So here we have got a daily cycle low, then a half cycle high, a half cycle low. Then the next cycle price movement upwards is called a daily cycle high. So this price here we can mark it as the daily cycle high. After the price reaches a daily cycle high to move downwards, they need to have a daily cycle low. So when we talk of a DCL, we can say in a period of 52 days, SASO price moved upwards and reached a DCL, which is the lowest price. Now, how do we mark these DCL and HCL or HCH or DCH or DCL? We use price swings. So if you can see here, this would be a swing. So this point here would be what we call a swing. Now we can identify another point as well that we would say fits the description of a swing. So we can choose here, it's a swing as well. We can also choose another point, which is this one, it's a swing. Then we have another here, which is a swing. Then another one here, which is a swing. So these are the swing that we use to mark the daily cycle low or daily cycle highs. So we use them whenever we are looking at cycle analysis. So usually what happens is after you have your half cycle correction, which is this one, you can draw a trend line. So you can have a trend line moving through from here to there. Now what will happen is that when price reaches a peak and when it starts to go down, the price must break below this trend line. which is the daily cycle trend line. So whenever you see a half cycle low, you can draw from the daily cycle low to the half cycle low and project that trend line upwards. It will give you the line that the price must break when it is going to confirm a daily cycle low. Now, before price confirms a daily cycle low, it must even resume an uptrend. So then you will have, because remember, an uptrend trend line is below, then when it reaches a peak, you will have another trend line there for your topping formation. So when price is to confirm a cycle low, it must break back above the trend line. So in this case, price has set this low, which we call the daily cycle low. Then you know that, okay, price now is moving upwards and is going back in a trend of upward direction. So you can now say this was the safest place to buy the share again. This is, hence we call it a daily cycle low. So I'm going to continue again and dig deep into this. For now, I'm just cutting this video so that we don't have to share a huge video which might be problematic to upload and download.